Welcome to e-lecture online. Today we shall be talking about how to solve quadratic equations using completing the square method. Recall that the general form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So in order to use completing the square method successfully, first we must ensure that the coefficient of x squared is just 1. So in order to make the coefficient of x squared 1, we have to divide all through by the coefficient of x squared, which is a in this case. So let's begin. So we have to divide all through by the coefficient of x squared, and the coefficient of x squared is a. So we'll have ax squared all over a plus bx all over a plus c all over a is equals to 0 all over a. We're dividing all through by the coefficient of x squared. So here we'll have that x squared plus b all over a x plus c all over a is equals to 0 over a is 0. So once we're able to make the coefficient of x squared 1, then the next step is to shift this constant to the other side of the equation, so that we can have x squared plus b all over ax is equals to negative c all over a. So having gone to this place, next what we'll do is to multiply the coefficient of x by half, square the result, and add it to this both sides of this equation. So what is the half of the coefficient of x? The coefficient of x is b all over a. Half of b all over a is b all over 2a, and the square is b all over 2a squared. So x squared plus b all over ax plus b all over 2a all squared is equals to, since we're adding this to both sides of this equation and this one is positive, we can write it before this negative term, so that we can have b all over 2a minus c all over a. So we have successfully added this to both sides of this equation. So what we do next, the shortest method I want my learners to understand is that once you are able to reach this side, what you need to do in the left hand side of the equation here is just to collect the ones with squares, but maintain this sign. Very important, maintain it. Is one of the secrets of not making mistake in the signs. Maintain these signs, then collect the ones with square in the left hand side. Then in the right hand side, we're going to expand and simplify. So let's go ahead and do that. We have x squared plus b all over 2a all squared is equals to, we're going to expand this. We have b squared all over 4a squared minus c all over a. Nice. So here we can decide to represent everything in the left hand side by the power of 2, because 2 is common here. So by indices, we can write this as x plus b all over 2a all squared is equals to, now the LCM of 4a squared and a is 4a squared. So 4a squared. 4a squared divided by 4a squared is 1. 1 times b squared is b squared. Minus 4a squared divided by a is 4a. 4a times c is 4ac. Correct. Now, since we're to look for the value of x, what we need to do in order to do away with this power is to take the square root of both sides. So if I'm taking the square root of both sides of this equation, we are going to have that x plus b all over 2a all squared, the square root, is equals to, now in this side it will take plus or minus, because we are taking the root of an even number, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. So notice that the square root and this square is gone, so we'll be left with x plus b all over 2a is equals to plus or minus. Now we can decide to share the square root to both terms, that is the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over the square root of 4a squared. Good. So x plus b all over 2a is equal to plus or minus. What is the square root of b squared minus 4ac? Can we be able to have the square root of this? Think about it. So as you're thinking, let me go ahead to tell us the answer. It's good that you think. We can't find the square root of b squared minus 4ac, so we write it back so that we can have b squared minus 4ac all over. What about the square root of 4a squared? The square root of 4a squared is 2a. How? I can quickly show us. We know that the square root of 4a squared can also be written as the square root of 2 square a squared. And we can also write it as the square root of 2a all squared. And this term is, this square is gone with this square root, so we'll have 2a. So this is how I got the square root of 4a squared to be 2a. I hope you followed what I just did. So we're going to write it here. So what we do next is to make x the subject formula. In making x the subject formula, we'll take this term to this side of the equation. And if any term crossing the equation sign, changing sign, so x is equals to negative b all over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right. So what we do next is to make this expression a single expression. So in order to do that is to find the LCM of these both terms and simplify. So we have x that is equals to, now the LCM of 2a and 2a is 2a. So you write 2a. 2a divided by 2a is 1. 1 times minus b is minus b. Then we have our plus or minus. Then the square root of, we have 2a divided by 2a is 1. So 1 times the square root of this is still the square root of this expression. Good. And if you check that the final result of what we used, don't forget from the beginning of the quadratic equation of the general term ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0 gave us this result. So which implies that the final result of solving that quadratic equation using that general term in finding the value of x, this is what we got. And by the virtue of this, we know that solving quadratic equation using formula method is by this term. So which implies that by the time you are able to solve quadratic equations using the general term, the final result is what we call the formula method. So quickly, I want you to go through the video and understand. So in the next video, we'll be using a question to solve all these steps we just used to solve a particular problem. Thank you. You can send in your questions if you have or anything that is not clear from the video. Please remember